Morning, guys. How's it going? Hey, Joey. Hey, Macho Man. How's it going, guys? How you doing, buddy? How you doing? Huh? Hey, Randy. How's it going, buddy? Oh, you're a good little baby bull. Yes, you are. Some serious bull you just dropped there, though. Stinky, man. That's stinky. So I've received a lot of questions and comments about how things are going with our baby bull here on the farm. He's been here on the farm for roughly 6 weeks, and I was supposed to be halter training him, meaning to train him so that I could just lead him around the farm with a rope. Because when you have a baby bull, that's a relatively easy thing to do. But when you have an adult bull with gigantic horns and raging hormones, you need to be a lot more careful. And I am an inexperienced farmer who is terrified of having an adult bull with huge horns and raging hormones. You know, they say you need confidence to work with cattle. Whoa, hey, easy guys, easy. And that is clearly something that I lack. Hello, my large white farm dogs. How are you guys doing? Good to see you this morning, guys. Hey, Abby dog. Hey, how's it going? Hi, Toby. Good dogs. Inside, let's go. All right, let's get this day started right, huh? Pretty much from the beginning, my farm dreams have always included cattle. You know, I would read those books by those regenerative farmers, and they would pretty much always include stories of having large herbivores grazing on grass alongside trees, and that's what really motivated me. And so when I dreamed of having farms of my own, it always included me owning cattle. Would you look at that silly little runner duck? She must have snuck through the hole in the door, got out, and now she can't figure out how to get back in. Don't worry, girl. You'll be reunited with your friends very soon. And while I think that that's a good idea in theory, in practice it has a serious flaw, not the least of which that I had no experience as a farmer, nor any experience whatsoever with cattle. All right, you guys want to come visit your birds? Let's go. Come on. Good morning, birds! And now to tackle the issue of not having any experience as a farmer, I always knew that cattle couldn't be the first animal I added to the farm because cattle would be big, scary, and expensive. And so that's why I started raising ducks in 2018 and then added geese and chickens into the mix in 2019. And it was ultimately those experiences, which overall went pretty well, that gave me the confidence to say that in 2021, I'd be ready for cattle. Speaking of those experiences, you guys will be happy to know that our mother goose is still sitting on her nest and protecting the chicken egg. I don't want to disturb her right now, but I think she's going to do really well sitting on that nest. But when it came to adding those cattle to the farm, I will admit now that I was just not ready for it in 2021. Release the Quackers! Now let's face it, cattle are big and scary. I mean, when you have like a 1,200-pound beast with giant horns sticking off the top of their head, you know, from an animal management and husbandry perspective, you need to be very, very careful. So for example, geese are probably the most dangerous poultry that we have here on our farm. And the worst injury you're gonna get from a goose is maybe a bite on the finger or get whacked with one of their wings. And while that is not necessarily pleasant, these friggin' beasts behind me could absolutely kill me if I'm not careful. And then to top it all off, when it comes to containing and managing animals like cattle, they're a bit harder too. I don't know if all of you guys know this, but when the cattle first came to our farm, they escaped almost immediately. And I spent my first few days as a cattle owner chasing cattle and trying to recatch them. I will say that I think that experience alone really shook my confidence and left me a little bit uneasy when it came to cattle. Step aside, girl. Step aside. Step aside. I'm coming in. I'm coming in. You know, one not so helpful observation some folks have had for me is that when they've seen me around my cattle, they've told me that I seem to lack confidence with the cattle. And that is probably true. I have lacked confidence with the cattle. But of course, the worst way to build confidence with something is to have have somebody out there telling you that you don't have confidence in it. And so I kind of saw this negative cycle of I would read comments on our videos of people telling me that I lack confidence with the cattle. And I think that that would hurt my confidence even more with the cattle. And it kind of becomes like a vicious cycle where the more time I get with the animals, the less confident I am. And while certain activities like trying to brush my cattle as well as try to milk my cattle have made a big difference, and it brought me a lot closer to my animals, I will still admit that I have problems when it comes to the confidence that I have with our bull calf, Randy Macho Man Savage. The truth of the matter is, confidence is one of the most important assets you can have in life. It's gonna be confidence that lets you take those big risks and try something new and try to improve and try to build something. It's not to say that you can't struggle with overconfidence, but in my experience over my 43 years on this earth, what I have found is it's better to have too much confidence than not enough. I mean, heck, if I didn't have enough confidence, I highly doubt I would have put myself in a situation where I quit the city life, move out here, and try to start this whole farm. You could argue that my entire farming adventure is the result of confidence. But every step along the way, whether it was starting to raise ducks or moving on to geese or figuring out how to work with machinery or buying a tractor or building a chicken coop, any of those activities, I always struggled a little bit and had a crisis of confidence. And I could get down on myself when I see the naysayers out there criticizing me or saying that I'm not doing the right thing. But the most important voices out there are the ones who actually reach out and offer to help. They're not the ones mollycoddling you and telling you that you're doing everything a-okay, particularly in the times when you're not. And they're also not the ones who are out there throwing rocks from the cheap seats. But they are the ones saying, hey, you might need some help here. I've got a lot of experience and I think I see some things that you can do differently that will improve your situation. Let me help you. In my experience, it's those voices that are always the most important voices.
You know, it's funny, just a few minutes ago when I was in here, it felt like the cattle were hungry piranhas and I was the fresh chum in the river. But it seems like now that they have some fresh hay, they're ready to go. How's it going, Belinda? You say hi? Hi. I think one of these days I'm going to start working with you even more. You know, Joey Ramone is now officially one of my cattle who I can brush. I think the next one's going to be Belinda. Look at Ginny Barncat. What you looking for there, Ginny? Something got your attention? Well, she's on the hunt.
You know, when I think back to some of the best mentors I've had in my life, they've often been the folks who saw me struggling and saw my stubbornness and were willing to reach out and say, hey buddy, it doesn't look like you're quite doing it right. Let us help you out. For hard-headed folks like myself, that's oftentimes the best type of help.
Good job, Ginny. Look at Ginny. She's so satisfied after a little meal like that. Way to do your job, sweetie. That was a vole that she caught, in case anybody was wondering. They're kind of like halfway between a mouse and a mole, so it's a vole. Ginny's putting in a strong attempt at the start of 2023 for Barn Cat of the Year.
So a few weeks back, Janet, who was one of the folks who sold us Randy Macho Man Savage in the first place, reached out to me and she offered to come over here to the farm with Ray, who's her partner, and the two of them would help coach me a little bit around halter training and give me some advice because they could see in my videos that I wasn't exactly getting it right. I was doing things like I was letting the lead be too long and I wasn't getting close enough to him, and sometimes I was being inconsistent with which hand I was using, and I was using treats too much as a motivation and not using the brushing as enough motivation. And I could tell that Janet was like a little bit nervous in offering that up because she wasn't quite sure if it was her place to do so. But as soon as she made that offer, I jumped at it and I invited them over and they came over to the farm and they spent about an hour or so with me working working with me with the halter. Ray was teaching me how to do it better. He even was showing me how to train Joey Ramone a little bit more. I mean, the man has spent his entire life working with Scottish Highland cattle, and so he knows what he's doing. And in watching him and working with them and having them watch me and work with me, I feel like just that hour alone set me significantly further ahead from where I was just even earlier that morning. And none of that would have been possible without Janet's offer of help. And so I don't care if you dream of having a farm or have no interest in it whatsoever, but I feel like there's an important lesson in that if you see somebody struggling and you know you can help them, don't be afraid to make the offer. I mean, by no means am I telling you to force it on them, but by you being the courageous one and making that offer, you make it easier for that person who's struggling to accept that help. And that can sometimes make all the difference for folks. Hey, Macho Man, I know you're having your breakfast, but you got a minute for going on a walk with me, kid? Yeah, that's what I like to see. Get your halter on. There we go. Good boy. There we go. Get it locked in place. We're gonna go for a little walk. Come on. When they were here, Ray and Janet encouraged me to take Macho Man outside of the gate, and I was actually terrified of the idea. Come on, buddy. I mean, this gate represents the only thing keeping my cattle from running free around the farm. But with Ray and Janet's encouragement, I started taking Randy outside of the fence and paddock for a daily walk. And that daily walk has become pretty much a regular routine for the two of us every single day, where we walk up and down this alley and I give Randy a chance to explore. And it also gives me just more time and more ability to walk him around and have just more practice with him, at least more practice than I get in the yard with Joey around. And sometimes he'll buck, and I know I need to be confident and keep him moving. The experience has been yet another really good bonding for me with him, as well as a challenge
That's forced me to improve my cattle keeping skills. And I would not have experienced any of this if it hadn't been for the coaching of Ray and Janet. I really am grateful to them. So if you want to make a difference in somebody's life, offer them some help.